Part 2. The strongest assassin in the server. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 11. This guy's damage is too high. Any skill can make me lose health. Ye Chen took a few steps back and reconsidered the countermeasures. To be honest, he did underestimate this dungeon, or underestimated this boss. He originally thought that he could pass it easily, but in fact, it was very difficult to fight. At this time, it would be better if there was one more shield warrior, but shield warriors have always been a stronghold and are the existence that all major teams are fighting for. For a while, it was difficult for him to find a stable one. If the later development is good, Tank might be willing to hang out with him. However, in the previous life, Tank and Monkey had their own fixed groups, and they were both core figures in the team. If he could not show his strong strength, he would definitely not be able to attract the two. Shaking his head to get rid of these things, he now has no shield warrior to help, so he can only fight alone. While he was thinking wildly, the rock giant had already strode over, and his flaming fist slammed down. He hurriedly avoided it and went around behind the rock giant to seize the time to attack. At this time, he found that although the rock giant had long legs, its body was slightly stiff, and it was difficult to turn around. Compared with ordinary monsters, it took more time to delay. That's it, Ye Chen's eyes lit up, and he seized the weakness of the rock giant and took action. The rock giant began to turn around, and he moved with it. When the rock giant turned its head, he came to the back of the rock giant again. With 2 slashes, the rock giant was stunned. Ah! Cunning human, the rock giant was attacked from behind, roaring angrily, but could only turn around again. However, no matter how it turned, Ye Chen would move with it, and in the end he would always be able to stand behind it and attack it. In this way, the rock giant's HP was consumed a lot, and the blood bar above his head was less than 1/5. After this period of time, Ye Chen and Xiaoro were also tortured by the flames on the ground, and both had less than half of their blood left. Suddenly, the rock giant roared again, kicked his feet, and jumped up. "Senior, jump," Ye Chen shouted loudly, and Xiaoro's reaction was not slow. As soon as he finished speaking, Xiaoro jumped up. This made him confused. In all honesty, he didn't mean that. The rock giant's jumping up is a skill, and when it lands, it will produce a huge vibration. What he really wanted to say was that he hoped Xiaoro would jump up at the moment it was about to land to avoid the shock, who knew that his mouth twitched and there was a mistake in the expression. Soon, the rock giant landed with a bang. Of course, he jumped up and easily avoided it, but Xiaoro jumped up first and was hit by the shock when she landed. Her health bar was emptied in an instant, and she fell to the ground and died. Ye Chen's face was full of black lines. In his previous life, when he went to the dungeon with the group, he always felt that those group leaders were pretentious, and they were so awesome. Now that he thought about it, he felt that they were not easy. At this time, the rock giant had used up all his skills and was no longer much of a threat to Ye Chen. A few minutes later, Ye Chen killed him with a backstab, and a lot of items were dropped. Generally speaking, the fewer people in the team, the higher the drop rate of the boss. However, after the rock giant died, in addition to a lot of copper coins, there were only 2 white clothes and no puzzles. Tisk tisk, this luck is too bad. Ye Chen shook his head, picked up the loot, and exited the dungeon. Although Xiaoro died in the dungeon before, the whole team completed the clearance, so she did not receive any punishment. "Okay, you guy, were you kidding me just now?" Xiaoro grabbed Ye Chen immediately. "Misunderstanding, I expressed it wrong just now." Ye Chen laughed awkwardly and quickly changed the subject. "Senior sister, let's go and kill the wild wolf first. I want to refine some potions, which will be safer when I kill the dungeon." Xiaoro knew what he was thinking, so she snorted lightly and did not continue the topic. Ye Chen heaved a sigh of relief and went back with Xiaoro to kill the wild wolf. He didn't know that he was wanted by Deng Liang. Now many people have accepted the bounty order and are looking for him everywhere. As we all know, red-named players will be wanted by the system. The bounty depends on the sin value and level of the red-named player. Generally, a red-named player at level 2 will only be rewarded with a few hundred copper coins if the sin value is not high. Ye Chen is not a red-named player now, but Deng Liang has offered a bounty of 100,000 copper coins. 100,000 copper coins, of course many people will take risks for it. Especially some professional players, who call themselves bounty hunters, often accept such bounties. Desolate Valley. Ye Chen was killing the wild wolf, and suddenly felt a pain in the back of his head. He was stunned while taking damage, but the next moment, he woke up from the dizzy state. System, you are maliciously attacked by the player Stinger. You can make a legal counter-attack within 30 minutes. System, you have triggered the talent firmwheel and are released from the dizzy state. Ye Chen's eyes narrowed. It was obvious that he was attacked by a thief. And this thief was not an ordinary player, because he also learned stealth. Otherwise, he would not have been able to get behind Ye Chen without Ye Chen realizing it. But in stealth, once you attack or are attacked, you will be forced to show your body. After 5 seconds, you will exit the combat state and continue to enter the stealth state. Rolling on the ground, Ye Chen's reaction was so fast that he avoided the enemy's second attack and turned to look at the newcomer. This was a strange face, which made him a little puzzled and angry. "Why did you attack us for no reason?" Xiaoro asked. Ye Chen, a teammate, was maliciously attacked, and she was also prompted by the system. At the same time, she could also make a legal counterattack. The so-called legal counterattack means that you can reasonably kill the enemy, without increasing the crime value and without being punished by red name. Think about who you have offended, Stinger sneered. As a professional bounty hunter, he won't reveal his employer's information. Ye Chen's eyes twitched. When the other party said this, he basically understood the situation. But now is obviously not the time to dwell on this. He can feel that the Stinger is a master, and his aura is obviously different from ordinary players. Now, he didn't intend to hold back. With a thought in his mind, Xiao He stretched out from his body and touched the back of the poisonous Stinger. A sap knocked down the poisonous Stinger, which stunned him, but this guy also had a firmwheel and recovered in an instant. However, at this moment Ye Chen had already rushed forward and knocked down another sap. It's so evil. Stinger was stunned again. He was a little confused now. He couldn't understand why he was stunned twice in a row. However, he could not figure out this problem because he had now become a corpse. The strongest assassin in the server. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 12. Is that person just now the killer sent by Deng Liang? Xiaoro said with a worried look. It should be so. He issued a reward order, and the amount of the reward is probably not low. Ye Chen frowned. Of course, he would not naively think that only Stinger accepted the reward. There must be many more people. This can be done. Said that his current situation is very dangerous. What should we do? Let's download the dungeon. It's safer there, Xiaoro suggested. Ye Chen nodded and said, but I still need some wild wolf hearts to refine the potion. Let's do this, senior sister. Let's work separately and find someone in this deserted valley to buy some wild wolf hearts. This will be more efficient. Xiaoro agreed, and the two separated temporarily. Ye Chen found a small team that was farming wild wolves, said hello, and asked straight to the point, do you have the heart of a wild wolf? 10 copper coins per piece, I'll collect it urgently. 10 copper coins each, everyone was shocked. This wild wolf heart is not a rare material, and can only be sold for 1 copper each in the store, but Ye Chen asked for 10 times the price, which immediately made them panic, thinking that they had met a rich man. Yes, there are dozens of wild wolf hearts among us, all of which we can sell to you. But brother, why do you want to take it? One of them couldn't help but ask after completing the transaction with Ye Chen. Hey, I accepted a rubbish mission that requires 100 wild wolf hearts. I'm too lazy to get them myself, so I have to come and collect them. Ye Chen's nonsense made everyone believe it. Tisk tisk, for a mission, he actually opened 10 times the heart. The price includes materials, he is indeed a wealthy person. Brother, seeing how heroic you are, I have a thief's skill book here. You give me a price, and I'll sell it to you if it suits you. A mage player took out a skill book and said to Ye Chen. Oh. When Ye Chen heard about the thief's skill book, he immediately became interested. He took it and saw that it was running quickly. Sprint, instant, move forward 5 yards at an extremely fast speed, cooling time, 20 seconds. Ye Chen's eyes lit up. This sprint is very useful and is a rare skill for thieves. Learning from a mentor requires at least level 10. If you have it now in advance, it can play a huge role. I want 30,000 copper coins. Ye Chen offered a relatively high price, and the mage was immediately happy. Who knew that Ye Chen sneered again and said, slightly embarrassed, but brother, I don't have so much money on hand. How about you wait for me, hours, can I clear a few copies and collect items of equal value to exchange with you? Hearing this, the mage frowned at first, with some contempt in his heart, but after hearing this, his eyes lit up. From what this guy meant, he seemed to have a fixed group. Tisk tisk, this guy has a fixed group at level 2, but no one wants him at level 3. As for the reason, it's because he is a fire mage. Everyone knows that fire mages are the most explosive among all mages and can cause explosive damage. However, the monsters in the dungeon of Blazing Swamp are all fire attribute monsters. Their fire resistance is very high, making it impossible for fire mages to defeat them. Outharm. Because of this, the fire mage is currently the most disliked profession. There is no one among them. Even if you have 5 points of fire resistance, you will not be wanted by the team. The mage rolled his eyes and said, so you have a group. In this case, you can help me introduce it to your group leader and find me a stable position. I will give you the skill book for free. I am the leader. Ye Chen touched his nose. Brother, it's okay to brag, but it's wrong to lie to others. You're only level 2, and you're still the leader, so go ahead and lie to the devil. The mage sneered and turned to ignore Ye Chen. In his eyes, Ye Chen, he has become a liar. Really, I am really the leader. If you don't believe it, I can help you brush it first. But you don't have enough fire resistance, so you need to prepare your own fire resistance potion, Ye Chen said depressedly. He just didn't understand. He was just the leader of a level 2 dungeon. Who should he be? Do you need to lie to others? Okay, let's try it first. The mage put away the skill book, quit the wild team, and followed Ye Chen. A few minutes later, Ye Chen, Xiaoro, and Master gathered at the entrance of the dungeon. System, the player Fire Barrel has requested to join your team. Do you accept it? This fire tube is the mage, Ye Chen decisively agrees. After entering the team, Huo Tong was stunned and said, where is anyone else? You wouldn't tell me that your so-called leader only formed a team with 2 people, right? You guessed it right, Ye Chen chuckled. Damn, are you kidding me? Huo Tong was angry. The standard team configuration is 30 people. The difficulty of the early stage copy of the game is not very high. It is normal to form a team of 10 people, but only 2 people in a team. Was there any mistake? Whether I'm kidding you or not, you'll find out when you get in. Ye Chen smiled nonchalantly and entered the dungeon decisively. Within the copy. Damn it, you just came in? If you fail, you'll lose 20% of your experience, Huo Tong shouted loudly. The flames rolling under his feet also aroused the anger in his heart. This guy is so worthless. He has to pretend to be rich even though he has no money. If he doesn't give him the skill book, he will cheat him. However, just as he was cursing, Yuchen had already rushed forward and killed a slime in 2 strokes. Hiss. Huotong's woke sun shrank and took a breath of air. Yuchen's attack power was so high that it completely shocked him. He now somewhat believed that Yuchen could lead the dungeon. Of course, Yuchen could have passed the dungeon, there was no suspense. With the help of Xiaohe, he easily cleared the monsters in the first room by dividing 3 by 5 and 2 by 3. Hey, stop being in a daze. If you don't take the fire resistance potion, your HP won't be able to hold on. Yuchen turned his head and smiled. Huotong responded awkwardly, and hurriedly took out a bottle of fire resistance potion and swallowed it. At this time, Yuchen adjusted the item distribution mode. After the group was formed, there were 3 item distribution modes: leader distribution, free pickup, and random distribution. Leader distribution, all items are under the control of the leader. Whoever is given the equipment will fall into his bag. Free pickup, whoever picks it up gets it. Random distribution, everyone rolls the points, whoever has the highest number of points gets the item. The default is the free pickup mode. Before, because Yuchen and Xiaoro knew each other, he didn't take it too seriously. Who knew that after a round of brushing, Xiaoro didn't pick up anything, and all of them were cheap for Yuchen. And now, a fire tube has been added. He brushed the dungeon for the benefit. In order to be fair, Yuchen adjusted it to random distribution. Random distribution, no objection, Yuchen asked Huotong. No, Huotong shook his head hurriedly. Yuchen nodded, and he planned to use this mode in the future. Senior sister Xiaoro might not pick up things in the free picking mode because he couldn't help much. In that case, Yuchen would feel bad. Now adjusting to random is the best choice. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The strongest assassin in the server. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 13. After passing the previous game, Yuchen had already figured out the general overview of Flame Swamp. Now that he had enough low-level life potion, he easily cleared the copy. The expression on Huotong's face was very exciting, from anger at first to shock and flattery. Searched Can on Google. A man who knows the current affairs is a hero. Huotong looked straight and said, "Boss, I was blind before. From today on, you are my leader." Xiaoro was amused by the appearance of the fire tube. Yuchen smiled nonchalantly. He could easily clear the flame swamp anyway, so it didn't matter if he dragged one more person along. Moreover, the fire torch paid a price, which was the speeding skill book. At this time, Huotong kept his promise and handed over the skill book. Yuchen learned decisively and started the dungeon cycle journey. It wasn't until night that the 3 of them parted ways and quit the game to rest. After a day of hard work, Yuchen reached level 3. After selling some equipment, he had tens of thousands of copper coins in his pocket, and he was considered well off. Xiaoro's fire barrel was also a blessing by following him, especially the fire barrel. He gave away a speed walking skill book as a price, and he earned it back in a day, and he could earn even more in the future. On the other side, Deng Liang became furious when no one completed the reward order issued by him after a day. There is a bounty of 100,000 copper coins for a level 2 thief, but no one can do it. Are all bounty hunters these days a bunch of losers? Deng Liang yelled at a group of younger men. Cai Dao was about to break out in a cold sweat, and said with a wry smile, "Brother Liang, you don't know how cunning that kid is. He has been hiding in the dungeon all day without coming out. No matter how high the bounty is, there is nothing he can do. What should I do? If he keeps hiding in the copy, wouldn't I be able to do anything to him?" Deng Liang frowned. Cai Dao's eyes flickered for a moment, but he hesitated to speak. Deng Liang immediately became impatient, kicked him on the butt, and said angrily, "If you fart, hurry up. Brother Liang, I wonder if you remember? That night God actually called Xiaorume his senior sister. He might be in the same school as us." Cai Dao's eyes lit up. If that were the case, why would he need to be in the game? I issued a reward order and beat him half to death in reality to see if he still dares to be arrogant. Deng Liang also thought as he did. He touched his chin and thought for a while, then waved his hand and said, "Then I'll leave this matter to you. Find out which department and class he is in. Tomorrow morning, I will lead someone to cut it." He was so stunned. After finishing speaking, Deng Liang left calmly, leaving the kitchen knife alone to weep secretly. Brother Liang had already said that he would behead someone tomorrow, which meant that he would find the person tonight, and now it was already evening, and he decided to stay up all night. The next morning, Ye Chen was studying in class. Suddenly, a group of people rushed in, and the leader was Deng Liang. The class was originally a little noisy, but now it suddenly became quiet, and you could hear the drop of a pin. This Deng Liang is a famous bad boy in the school. Who knows what is wrong with him coming here to cause trouble? The students couldn't help but lower their heads for fear of getting into trouble. I saw Deng Liang with an angry face and carrying a baseball bat. Before he could say anything, Gao Ming stood up suddenly, pointed at Deng Liang's nose and cursed, "You idiot Deng Liang, your eyes are stuck in your crotch, you can also come to the territory." The classmates secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Deng Liang was a bad boy, but he was still smarter than him. They are all bullies who bully men and women. Everyone is eager for the two of them to fight and have a gorgeous dog-eat-dog show. Deng Liang's eyes shrank. Gao Ming was indeed more awesome than him. He didn't dare to be presumptuous, but he was unwilling to let Ye Chen go like this, so he said in a muffled voice, "I'm not here to find you. I'm here to find Ye Chen, that bastard Chen." "Are you looking for Ye Chen?" Gao Ming was stunned, turned his head and stared at Ye Chen gloomily, then turned his head and said, "Okay, I will give you a face today and solve it as soon as possible." Gao Ming naturally hates Ye Chen very much. Now that he has the opportunity to kill him with someone else's hand, he will naturally be happy. After receiving Gao Ming's permission, Deng Liang suddenly lost his worries and shouted wildly in the class, "Ye Chen! Get out of here. You can pretend to be a coward in the game, but now you don't have such a good chance." The kitchen knife next to him also looked around. Suddenly his eyes lit up, and he pointed to Deng Liang. Deng Liang took a look and immediately sneered. He was about to rush over, but because Gao Ming was here, he could only go outside to solve the problem. "Ye Chen, I'm waiting for you on the rooftop. If you don't come in 10 minutes, you won't be here today. Want to go back?" After he finished speaking, he spit out a mouthful of phlegm and landed on the head of a male classmate in front of him. He smiled disdainfully and walked away with a group of younger students. "Brother Chen, you are my brother Chen. If you are not clever enough, why do you still mess with Deng Liang?" Fatty Lehu whispered, with a look of helplessness and of course concern. Ye Chen smiled, patted his shoulder, and stood up to prepare for the appointment. From the corner of his eye, he saw Yun Jianer looking at him worriedly. Seeing that he noticed, she gently shook her head, hoping that he would not go. Deng Liang brought so many people here, obviously looking for trouble. Ye Chen had helped her before, and she didn't want anything to happen to him. The corner of his mouth raised unconsciously, and Ye Chen felt warm in his heart. After so many years, he certainly knew that Yun Jianer was a simple and kind-hearted girl, otherwise he wouldn't have been secretly in love with her for 4 years. At this moment, he felt as sweet as a honey pot because of the beauty's worry, but he still had to go to the appointment. It's not that he was showing off, but he really wanted to teach Deng Liang a lesson. Look, Ye Chen really went. Deng Liang brought a baseball bat with him. I'm afraid he won't be light. Poor him, I heard that he was beaten into the hospital by Gao Ming a few days ago, and he probably has to go in again this time. Humph, he deserves it. The classmates whispered, some were worried, some were gloating, especially the boy in the front row. He was the class monitor of this class, named Li Hao. At this moment, he had a gloomy face, because of Ye Chen. He was spit on his head by Deng Liang for no reason. However, he didn't dare to provoke Deng Liang, so he could only point the spearhead at Ye Chen. He only hoped that Deng Liang could beat Ye Chen more miserably to eliminate his hatred. Ye Chen suddenly became the focus of the whole class. If it were before, he would be excited, but now he looked calm. After experiencing all kinds of events, his mentality has surpassed that of ordinary people. Ye Chen strode to the rooftop, and Deng Liang, who had been waiting for a long time, suddenly grinned and said, "Haha, I didn't expect you to really dare to come. Today I will let you know the consequences of competing with me for a woman." Kneel down. Ye Chen's expression condensed and he suddenly shouted. Deng Liang was stunned for a second, and laughed in anger, but suddenly, a huge force suddenly pressed on his shoulders, and his knees softened without warning. With a thump, he actually knelt on the ground. Brother Liang, everyone was shocked. They didn't expect that Deng Liang actually knelt down to Ye Chen. At this moment, Deng Liang was also shocked. He clearly felt a huge force pressing on his shoulders just now, but now it disappeared. This weird thing made him sweat coldly, but then he shook his head again, thinking that he was too suspicious. "Damn it, what are you still standing there for? Hit me, slap." Deng Liang hurriedly stood up and yelled at his men, but before he finished speaking, he suddenly felt a pain on his left cheek and a crisp slap sounded. Slap. With another sound, Deng Liang's face turned red on both sides, and it looked like he was slapped twice. The atmosphere gradually became weird, and everyone couldn't help swallowing their saliva. What happened? There was no one in front of Brother Liang, who slapped him. Suddenly, they thought of Ye Chen. Although they didn't want to believe it in their hearts, Ye Chen asked Deng Liang to kneel down just now, and Deng Liang actually knelt down. How to explain this? Thinking of this, they couldn't help but look at Ye Chen, but saw that he stretched out his right hand, as if he had just slapped someone. Damn it, could this guy slap someone in the air? Everyone couldn't believe it, but it seemed to be the case. Get lost. Ye Chen rubbed his palms, stared at Deng Liang and said coldly, "Today is just a warning. If you don't learn your lesson in the future, it won't be so simple." Deng Liang's cheeks were red, swollen, and painful. When he looked at Ye Chen again, there was more fear in his eyes, but more of it was still anger. But still not getting lost, Ye Chen snorted coldly and slapped him twice. The anger in Deng Liang's eyes quickly subsided, and he said timidly, "Don't hit me, don't hit me, I'll get lost right away." The strongest assassin in the server. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 14. After taking care of Deng Liang and others, Ye Chen returned to the class. His calm look made most of the class uneasy. They saw with their own eyes that Deng Liang and his men came angrily, so they would give Ye Chen a good beating no matter what, right? However, Ye Chen's whole body is now intact, with no scars at all. What are you doing? Did Deng Liang bring so many people here just to chat with Ye Chen? Yes, look at Ye Chen's body without any injuries, and his expression of contentment. Couldn't he be the one who singled out Deng Liang and the others? Fart. I think he knelt down to beg for mercy and licked Deng Liang's shoes, so they let him go. Everyone started talking again, everyone had their own opinions. Only squad leader Li Hao looked depressed. He expected Deng Liang to beat Ye Chen up hard, but he didn't expect Ye Chen to come back safely. Ye Shenwan ignored everyone, returned to his seat calmly, and gave the fat man a reassuring look. Of course, he did not forget to cast a flirtatious look at Yun Qian'er, but received a blank look from the latter, This immediately made him lose interest, so he lay down on the desk and dozed off. About 10 minutes later, Xiaoro hurried over and stood outside the window and asked a boy, "Classmate, is Yechen in this class?" The boy was studying seriously. He was a little unhappy at being disturbed, but when he looked up and saw Xiaoro, his face turned red and he was speechless. Not only him, many people also noticed Xiaoro outside the window. Their faces turned red with excitement, and some even whistled frivolously. Although the school beauty Yun Jianer is in their class, domestic flowers are no more fragrant than wildflowers. Moreover, Xiaoro is more mature, has a gentle temper and is like a big sister next door, and is extremely lethal to these little boys. Some seniors even secretly took photos of Xiaoro as a nurse and posted them on the campus website for 100 yuan each. I heard the sales were very good. Senior Xiaoro, who are you looking for? You're not looking for me, are you? Someone asked in a mean tone, and he burst out laughing, but received blank looks from everyone around him. Xiaoro smiled softly. For someone with many suitors, such a joke would not make her angry. She had a charming smile, and when everyone looked at her smile, their hearts beat unsatisfactorily, and their faces turned red, just like a young boy who was just beginning to have feelings for her. However, Xiaoro's next sentence made them open their mouths. "I'm looking for Yechen, can you help me call him?" Xiaoro said with a smile. "Damn, it's Yechen again." Everyone turned their heads depressed and looked at Yechen, who was sleeping on the table, and suddenly became very angry. When the fat man heard that the beautiful senior sister was looking for Yechen, it was okay. He immediately punched Yechen in the abdomen to wake him up. He gritted his teeth and said, "Senior Xiaoro is looking for you. Grandma, please tell me the truth, how did you meet senior sister?" A sharp pain hit him, and Yechen was about to get angry, but he heard the fat man say that senior Xiaoro was looking for him again. He turned around and saw that it was true, and immediately lost his anger. He smiled at the fat man, and was greatly surprised by the envious and jealous eyes of the other party. "Step out of the classroom." "Senior, what do you want from me?" Yechen asked. He couldn't help but look at Xiaoro with his eyes, but he saw that there were dark circles at the corners of her eyes and she looked a little tired. "Has Deng Liang looked for you?" Xiaoro asked with concern. "I searched for him, but I took care of him," Yechen chuckled. "Talking nonsense again," Xiaoro said angrily, but seeing that Yechen was indeed not injured, she felt relieved. Yechen frowned and asked abruptly, "Senior, you had an all-night shift last night? In that case, why didn't you get off the line earlier yesterday?" He suddenly heard that Xiaoro had already interned and had a job, and now he looked very tired, having obviously worked all night yesterday. Xiaoro smiled sweetly, her big eyes narrowed into crescent moons. She stretched out her little hand and tapped Yechen's forehead, and said, "You brat, you are quite caring. There must be many girls who like you." "No. Who would like a silly boy like me except Senior Xiaoro?" Yechen chuckled, and the ambiguous words made Xiaoro blush again. "I'm afraid that it will slow down the progress and my level will be pulled down by you, so I won't be able to play dungeons together in the future." "That's it." Yechen was silent. Not only Xiaoro, why isn't he worried? "Although I have more time in college, my gaming time is still not as good as that of professional players. I can't see anything yet, but I will definitely be pushed further in the future." To be honest, he went to college for 4 years in his last life and didn't do well. Now he wants to drop out of school and become a full-time gamer. With the memories of Xiaohei and his previous life, he didn't believe that he couldn't act like a human being. But this matter is of great importance and requires the consent of his family, so he is just thinking about it now and has not taken any actual action. "Okay, I'm relieved now that you're fine. You can go back to study." "Senior sister, I'm going back to rest too." Xiaoro yawned and slowly walked away. Yechen sighed secretly. The older a person gets, the heavier the burden on his shoulders will be. He has also experienced senior year and knows the contradictory and nervous emotions. Xiaoro seems relaxed now, but she must be feeling a lot of pressure in her heart. Back in the classroom, Yechen was immediately pestered by the fat man. "Tell me, how did you hook up with the senior sister?" "I met him in the game," Yechen said casually. Tisk, tisk, you are so lucky. If I had known that Senior Xiaoro would choose the human race, then I would choose the human race too. The fat man beat his chest. "Forget it, the dwarf is your best choice," Yechen sneered. A day of classes passed in a daze, and Yechen was a little helpless. For him, this was another day of wasted time. After thinking for a while, he still called home, and it was his mother who answered the phone. Yechen hesitated and mustered up a lot of courage to tell his mother that he wanted to drop out of school. He thought his mother would be angry, but she just said, "Just think it over. No matter what decision you make, I will support you. Don't worry, Mom, even if you don't study, your son will be successful in the future." Yechen was greatly encouraged and shouted excitedly into the phone. After that, he kissed her and hung up the phone. Having made up his mind and getting the consent of his family, Yechen really couldn't stay idle for a moment, but now is obviously not the time. Not to mention anything else, he will move out of the dormitory immediately after dropping out of school and rent a house outside. But he hasn't even paid back the fat man's money now, so where can he get the money to rent a house outside? Renting a house is so expensive now. If you want to find a slightly better single room, you need about 1,000 yuan. So the most urgent thing now is to make a few thousand yuan by panning for gold in the game. The strongest assassin in the server. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 15. In the evening, Yechen had dinner and entered the game again. He opened the friend list and found that Xiaoro was not online. It seemed that she was on night shift again today. Sighing secretly, Yechen was about to contact Huotong, but unexpectedly, this guy sent a message first. "Boss, do you want to do a business?" "Oh? What business?" Yechen was very interested. "It's like this. I see that you can easily clear the dungeon. Have you ever thought about leading people to make money? Don't joke. It's a level 2 dungeon, or a normal level. You can pass it by just stacking some fire resistance. Who is willing to pay someone to lead you?" Yechen smiled bitterly. Of course he wanted to make money, but he didn't think it was a feasible way. "Boss, you are awesome, so of course you think the dungeon is simple. In fact, many people can't find a group now, and they are willing to pay someone to lead them, especially a fire mage like me," Huotong said anxiously. "Oh, you're right." Yechen was stunned. Fire mages do need to be brought at this stage, but there is still a problem, so he asked, "But where can I find fire mages now?" "Hee, boss, when you are not online during the day, I go to the group and get all kinds of dislikes. At the same time, I also met some like-minded people. They are all fire mages, about 10 people," Huotong continued. "I explained your strength to them, so as long as you agree, they are willing to pay you to bring them." "Haha, it's really a pillow for sleepiness." Yechen was overjoyed and promised Huotong to bring those fire mages to the door of the Flame Swamp dungeon. "Everyone, I don't want too much, 100 copper coins a hand, and the items are randomly distributed when everyone came," Yechen said straight to the point. Everyone nodded in agreement, saying, "Great, 100 copper coins is very cheap, equivalent to taking an extra bottle of fire resistance potion per game. Brother, we have been looking for you for a long time." Yechen smiled. Of course, he was happy to see this kind of situation, so he took the money and drove away. Yechen is very efficient now. He can lead people to play a game in a few minutes. After a few hours, he made a lot of money, almost 50,000 copper coins, and that's not including the extra income from the dungeon. 50,000 copper coins, according to the current ratio of game coins, is equivalent to 50 yuan. Earning 50 yuan in a few hours is not less than working, and the game has only been launched for a few days. The more time passes, the easier it will be to make money. Hurry up and make a few thousand yuan, rent a house outside, drop out of school, and become a professional player. Ye Chen made up his mind, and his heart was agitated. After midnight, the bosses gradually went offline, and finally only Ye Chen and Huotong were left. The two returned to the village together, sold the junk equipment that exploded in the dungeon, and bought some consumables as supplies. After everything was done, Huotong said excitedly, "Team leader, we just brushed the dungeon and we all got a few fire resistance puzzles. When we embed them on the equipment, we can break 10 points of fire resistance. Do you think we should try a difficult level dungeon?" Difficult level? Ye Chen frowned. For a difficult level dungeon, the final boss is at the leader level, and there is a certain chance of exploding more advanced blue equipment. At this stage, blue equipment is still extremely rare, and rarely appears on the market. Even if there is, it is a sky-high price of tens of thousands of copper coins. Thinking of this, the difficult level dungeon is very attractive, but Ye Chen shook his head and said, "No, we can't do it alone. At least a shield warrior and a priest are needed." "Is that so?" "The priest has Xiaoro's wife, and the shield warrior is more difficult to find." Huotong was not interested. Seeing Huotong calling Xiaoro's wife, Ye Chen knew that he had misunderstood, but he was secretly happy for no reason and did not explain much. After all, men are more or less vain. Who doesn't want to have a girlfriend who is beautiful, gentle, and has a good figure and big breasts? "Huotong, are you a professional player? I just heard you say that you are online during the day," Ye Chen suddenly asked. "That's right, but without you as the boss during the day, I can only play Wild Wolves. The experience is low and the income is low." Pitiful Huotong couldn't help shaking his head and sighing. "You play Wild Wolves during the day? How many Wild Wolf hearts do you have? Have you sold them?" Ye Chen's eyes lit up. I lost it in the store. Those junk materials are kept to take up space." Huotong was a little confused. The last time he heard that Ye Chen needed Wild Wolf hearts for a task, it has been 2 days now. It can't be that it hasn't been completed yet, right? Ye Chen smiled bitterly, took out a bottle of low-level life potion and handed it to him, saying, "Actually, I collected the wolf hearts to make this potion." "Wow, what a good thing. It's actually an instant recovery potion. If this kind of thing is put on the market, it will sell for at least 1,000 copper coins per bottle." Huotong was immediately excited, and Ye Chen was also a little excited. "Huotong, when you kill the wolf tomorrow, keep all the wolf hearts, and help me collect more. When I go online, I will make them into instant recovery potions. If you help me sell them, I will give you 30% of the profit." 30% profit? Huotong's eyes widened and drooled. Tisk tisk, 30% profit, that is, he will make a net profit of 300 copper coins for each bottle sold. How could he not do such a lucrative job? After a while, he calmed down and smiled at Ye Chen with amusement. "Boss, you want me to help you sell, aren't you afraid that I will be greedy and turn my back on you? Haha, this is a long-term business. If you are greedy for a short-term benefit, you are stupid." Ye Chen smiled indifferently, and Huotong's eyes lit up, and his admiration for him increased. It's a pity that Ye Chen is still studying and not a full-time player, otherwise, Huotong is fully confident that he will show his skills in the game. This chapter is not over yet, please click the next page to continue reading. But he didn't know that Ye Chen was planning to drop out of school. Soon after, Huotong said goodbye and went offline to rest. Ye Chen's face became serious, and he was about to go offline, but there was still a bronze treasure chest that had not been opened. That's right, it was the bronze treasure chest from yesterday. Treasure chests are refreshed once a day, and the location of that treasure chest is very hidden. I believe no one has found it yet, which is a bargain for him. In the past few days, he plans to open it once a day, not asking for anything, and any skill book will benefit him endlessly. He did it as soon as he thought of it. He ran out of the village quickly, crossed the green grassland, and came to the deserted valley again. But suddenly, he felt a chill on his back, and then he was knocked unconscious by a club, and of course he woke up immediately. System, you are maliciously attacked by the player Stinger, and you can make a legal counter-attack within 30 minutes. System, you have triggered the talent firmwheel and are released from the dizzy state. It's that guy again. Yachen's face turned cold, Xiaohei flew out of his body, and quickly pounced on Dustthorn, knocking him down with a club, breaking his firmwheel. At the same time, Yachen stepped forward and used the same method to stun him again. But this time, he did not kill Dustthorn, but stepped back a few steps and scolded coldly, "Hey, are you kidding me? Are you staring at me? If I remember correctly, my bounty has been withdrawn now." Indeed, when he was buying and selling things in the novice village just now, he took a look at the notice board in the village, and there was no bounty for him on it. "You caused me to drop a level yesterday, so of course I have to take revenge, and I think you are a bit weird, you can stun me twice in a row," Dustthorn responded. "So what, get out of here. I advise you to stop bothering me in the future, otherwise I will kill you every time I see you," Yachen narrowed his eyes and said coldly. "You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The strongest assassin in the server. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 16. So what, get out of here. Let me advise you, you'd better stop causing trouble to me in the future, otherwise I'll kill you every time I see you, Yachen narrowed his eyes and said coldly. Really, can you do it? Stinger sneered and said, if I had brought one more person with me just now to break your firmwheel, I could kill you in one shot. Yachen was startled, and cold sweat broke out on his back. The Stinger was right. If he brought one more person with him, he would really be in danger. What do you want? Yachen asked coldly. It's very simple. You pay 100,000 copper coins to compensate me for my loss of leveling up, and tell me your secret at the same time. Stinger put away the dagger, stepped forward and started talking, seemingly determined to defeat Yachen. Haha, you have such a beautiful idea. Let your mother stay with me for one night, and I will agree to all your requests. Seeing the poisonous thorn on his nose, Yachen laughed angrily and immediately broke his face. Court death. The veins on Stinger's face rolled up, he shouted angrily, drew out his dagger and rushed towards Yachen, but was interrupted on the way. It was Xiaohei's sap. You are the one seeking death. Come on if you have the guts. I'll kill you once. Yachen sneered and didn't give Stinger a chance to fight back. He used speed to come to him like lightning and cooperated with Xiaohei and Xiaohei. He was stabbed to death with a knife. Soon, Stinger's body turned into white light and dispersed, leaving only a few copper coins. Yachen stepped forward to pick up the copper coins, snorted coldly and continued on his way. After turning a few corners, he came to the hidden stone crevice again. The bronze treasure chest was indeed lying inside. As expected, no one noticed this place. Yachen smiled and opened the treasure box when he saw it was unlocked. Inside was another box full of copper coins, and at the top, there was only one piece of equipment and a skill book. The material of this equipment is rough and the color is dull. At first glance, it looks like the most rubbish white equipment, but the skill book is good. Yachen rubbed his hands and picked it up and saw that it turned out to be a thief's lock-picking skill. You know, there are many kinds of treasure chests in Dream World, and there is a certain chance that bronze treasure chests and above will be locked. The lockpicking skill is a skill specifically used by thieves to open treasure chests. Originally, this skill required level 5 thieves to learn, but Yechen was now able to learn it first. I have to say that this lockpicking skill came at the right time. Yechen will not have to worry about the bronze treasure box being locked in the future. With a clap of his hands, Yechen learned the skill and put away all the copper coins. Then, he cautiously ran to the side of the copy of Flame Swamp before going offline to rest. You should know that when the player comes online again, he will appear at the position where he last exited the game. The reason why Yechen did this was to be careful, so as not to go online the next day and be assassinated by a stinger on the road. Although the chance of this is very low, it is always right to be careful. Novice Village, Resurrection Point. Stinger sat on the ground, his face gloomy, and he wanted to drip water. Newbie players passed by from time to time, but they didn't dare to look at his face and ran away in a hurry. Yechen, Stinger whispered Yechen's ID, clenching his fists and veins popping out on his face. It was actually his mistake just now. After 2 fights, he already knew that he alone was no match for Yechen. When he threatened Yechen, he also considered Yechen's uncompromising situation. That didn't matter. He could leave first and bring someone to kill Yechen next time. But he didn't expect that Yechen would actually say such unpleasant words, which made him lose his mind, and then he dropped another level. Continuously dropping levels, he is now only level 2. Let alone a professional player, he is now not even as good as an ordinary player. I have been playing the Stinger game for many years and have always been a loner. It seems that this time, I will also join a guild, the Killer Guild, Dance of Death, Stinger murmured to himself, having a plan in mind. If Yechen heard these words, he would definitely be surprised, or even really frightened. This Dance of Death was one of the top 10 outstanding guilds in Yechen's previous life, and they were all thieves, making them a veritable killer guild. I heard that it is very difficult for new members to join the guild and they need to undergo many dangerous assessments. Because of this, the number of people in this guild is only a few hundred, which is far less than other powerful guilds. But it is able to firmly sit among the top 10 outstanding guilds, which shows its strength. Because they are a killer guild, they are more professional than bounty hunters, and they even dare to kill people in towns. They are often active in the streets and alleys, making people frightened. Because once you are targeted by them, it will not be as simple as losing 1 level, you will be chased down to level 0 at every turn. As for Stinger, he now plans to join this guild and use his strength to deal with Yechen. The next day, Yechen went to class all day in a daze. Once he thought about dropping out of school, he really lost the mood to study at all. After a simple dinner, Yechen quickly entered the game, opened the friends bar and saw that the fire torch was indeed online. Huotong, how is the heart of the wild wolf? Yechen sent a message, and Huotong immediately replied, meet and discuss in detail. Play mystery with me. Yechen muttered, assembled the fire tube, checked its coordinates based on the team information, and found that he was spawning wolves not far away, and was now moving towards him quickly. Not long after, Huotong ran over and said with a mysterious smile, Boss, how many wild wolf hearts do you think I received? Guess your sister, tell me quickly. Yechen rolled his eyes. Huotong smiled and said, 30,000. And the number is still rising. Gugu, hey, the number is still increasing, what's going on? Yechen couldn't help swallowing his saliva. Hey, those mage friends, I tricked them into helping me collect, I paid the principal, boss, you can take them for free later. Huotong laughed. You kid, you have a good business sense. Yechen patted Huotong on the shoulder and praised him. Tisk tisk, 30,000 wolf hearts can make a full 10,000 bottles of instant recovery potion. Each bottle sells for 1,000 copper coins, which is equivalent to 1 yuan per bottle in RMB. 10,000 bottles is 10,000 yuan. He owns 70%, and after discarding the odds and costs, he earns at least more than 6,000 yuan. I'm going to get rich, Ye Chen's mouth almost crooked with laughter, earning 6,000 a day, who the hell still goes to school? Since I can make so much money, I'm not in a hurry to drop out. I'll wait for 2 more days, pay back the fat guy's money, treat my roommates to a meal, and then it won't be too late to drop out. Ye Chen made up his mind, but he can start looking for a house from tomorrow. It's hard to find a house now, and the rent is high, so it's better to prepare early. The strongest assassin in the server. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 17. The next day, Ye Chen had no classes in the morning, so he went out to look for a house. He held his mobile phone and looked through all the nearby properties through the app, but none of them were satisfactory. It's not too expensive, it's just dirty and messy. It is worth mentioning that he helped an old woman on the way. The vegetables she bought fell to the ground and several fruits rolled everywhere, so he helped to pick them up. As noon approached, Ye Chen had no choice but to find an agent. Looking for a house through an agency requires you to pay an additional agency fee, which is not cost-effective, but it provides a little more protection in terms of housing availability. Coincidentally, he met the mother-in-law again at the agency. The mother-in-law pulled Ye Chen in surprise and said, "Young man, thank you for helping me this morning. Why, do you want to rent a house?" "Yes, mother-in-law, are you here to rent a house too?" Ye Chen responded with a smile. "No, I have a house that I wanted to rent to them." "You happen to be looking for a house. Do you want to take a look?" "Don't worry, my mother-in-law won't charge you more." The old woman was so enthusiastic that Ye Chen was pulled out by her before she could express her stance, leaving a group of staff members messy in the wind. What are they doing? There are 2 missing pieces of business all at once. The mother-in-law was very generous. She stopped a taxi as soon as she left the house and took Ye Chen into the car. "Young man, there are not many kind-hearted young people like you nowadays. Don't worry, as long as you don't dislike my house, I will rent it to you at any price," the mother-in-law said with a smile. Ye Chen felt ashamed. He had only done a small favor, and the mother-in-law was so polite. Wait a minute, didn't he meet a liar? As soon as he had this idea, what his mother-in-law said later dispelled his worries. In fact, this mother-in-law is very pitiful. Her son and daughter-in-law died in a car accident, leaving only a little granddaughter. The house she was talking about was the house where her son and daughter-in-law lived. As an old man, she didn't have to live in such a big house and didn't have any connections, so she was planning to rent it out to an agency, but she happened to meet Ye Chen. Not long after, the car drove into a relatively high-end community. By this time, Ye Chen was already scared. Her mother-in-law's house was on the 2nd floor. After looking at the house, Ye Chen was stunned. This house is over 150 square meters, beautifully decorated and fully furnished with all kinds of appliances and furniture. If rented out, the price would be at least 4,000 to 5,000 per month. "Mother-in-law, you may have misunderstood. How can I, a poor student, afford such a good house?" Ye Chen said with a wry smile. To be honest, when he saw how profitable the game was, he really wanted to find a house with a better environment to live in, but the conditions here were too good and too luxurious. The mother-in-law smiled and said, "Don't worry, my mother-in-law rents it to you cheaply. There are 2 rooms here. You can choose any one to live in. It only costs 1,000 a month. If you are short of money now and don't have a house to live in, my mother-in-law will let you live for free. A few months will do." 1,000. You can live for free if you don't have any money. Ye Chen was stunned and murmured in his heart, "Mother-in-law, mother-in-law, I am your long-lost grandson." While thinking about it, he also noticed that there were 3 bedrooms in the house, 2 large ones and 1 small one. Sensing Ye Chen's gaze, her mother-in-law explained, "This small room is where my granddaughter lives. She goes to elementary school and usually lives in the school. Occasionally she comes back during weekends. Yechen understood and felt more and more that it was not easy for her mother-in-law. After her son and daughter-in-law passed away, the responsibility of raising her granddaughter fell on her old shoulders. Renting out the house was probably also a life force. Mother-in-law, I don't think it's easy for you. I won't rent this house anymore. You can rent it to an agency for at least 4,000 to 5,000 yuan per month. Yuchen didn't want to take advantage of the old man, so he shook his head and refused carefully. Ouch, young man, why are you so stubborn? I will rent one room to you, and I will rent another room to someone else for 2,000, so I will have 3,000 yuan every month. The mother-in-law took Yechen's hand and said, more importantly, I can trust you. My good granddaughter occasionally comes back to stay for a few days. If it were anyone else, I would be worried. Mother-in-law Xiao was moved by her feelings and reasoned, as if Yechen's stay would be of great help to her. Yechen really couldn't help it, so he readily agreed. Holding the key given by her mother-in-law in her hand, Yechen took a taxi back to school. The mother-in-law was so polite that she forced the key into his hand and said he could move in at any time. Of course Yechen was happy that things ended up like this. He would definitely be willing to move into such a good house as soon as possible, but he didn't want to take advantage of the old man, and he would definitely have to pay the rent. It happened to be self-study in the afternoon, so he jumped right into the game, returned to his dormitory and entered the game. He immediately contacted Huotong and asked him how the sales of his goods were going. Huotong replied instantly, "Boss, I'm in trouble." "What's going on?" "I was setting up a stall in the village to sell goods, but a group of people gathered around me. They thought I had a source of goods, so they forced me to join their guild. I didn't agree, so they blocked me, not buying for themselves, and not allowing others to buy goods," came the anxious voice of Huotong. "Damn it, which guild is so mean?" Yechen was furious at that time, and immediately formed a team with Huotong and rushed towards his coordinates. Not long after, he had arrived at the coordinates, and he saw a group of people surrounding the fire tube stall. The group of people all had one thing in common, that is, their heads were dyed red. Red Whirlwind. Yechen recognized it at once. This Red Whirlwind was a guild. It was not very powerful, but it was somewhat famous in its previous life, but its reputation was stinky. Because they bully the weak and fear the strong, they always like to bully some weak individual players. Huotong, right? I advise you to give up this idea. As long as you don't join our guild, we will keep pestering you. As long as you dare to leave the novice village, we will kill you immediately. The leader was named Brilliant Life, with a messy red hair. At this moment, he persuaded Huotong with a smile. Although it was persuasion, the threat was evident. At the same time, he did not forget to threaten the players around who wanted to buy medicine, and no one is allowed to buy things at his stall. Whoever buys it is against our red tornado. Everyone was silent and lowered their head slightly. Although they all wanted instant recovery potions, they did not dare to offend a guild easily. Although they had never heard of this guild before. Who are you trying to scare? What red tornado? I have never heard of it. Yechen deliberately made a fuss, squeezed the crowd around, and calmly came to Brilliant Life and others. At this moment, Yechen was fully equipped, and many parts of his equipment were emitting green luster, which were obviously green quality equipment. This outfit made him look like a master, and he was many times more impressive than a novice player who didn't even have complete equipment. Brilliant Life stared at Yechen deeply, but saw that he looked at him without showing any weakness. He couldn't help but feel scared, but still said firmly, "My friend, I advise you not to make trouble. It will be no good for you to offend our red tornado." The strongest assassin in the server. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 18. I've already said I've never heard of red tornado. It's a trash guild that doesn't even have a reputation, but it's learning to bully people. Yechen didn't give him any face and scolded him. Brilliant Life's face was immediately embarrassed. He pointed at Yechen and was about to scold him, but who knew that Yechen slapped him in the face. This time, not only was he stunned, but even his group of subordinates and a crowd of onlookers were all stunned. Is there anything wrong? This guy dared to beat people in the town. Where are the NPC guards? Why haven't they come yet? Glancing at the confused expressions of the crowd, Yechen couldn't help but laugh in his heart. In fact, he didn't beat anyone at all, he just pretended. The one who really beat people was, of course, Xiaohe. Xiaohe is really amazing. It obeys its master Yechen, but it is beyond Yechen. All its actions will not be counted by the system on Yechen. Yechen was very clear about these things, but the people watching didn't know, especially Brilliant Life. He saw that Yechen was beaten in the town without being caught by the NPC guards, so he became bolder. More importantly, Yechen slapped him in the face in public, which had already made him furious. He roared, drew his sword and slashed Yechen, and blood flowed in an instant. Yechen's HP dropped by half, but he was not in a hurry at all, because the roar of the NPC guards had been heard. Who is making trouble in the village? Do you think we don't exist? Several guards rushed over, and the cold knives were placed on Brilliant Life's neck, scaring him so much that he broke out in cold sweat and dared not move. You know, these NPCs are over level 30, and they can kill all the current players instantly. Who dares to provoke them? But Brilliant Life was not convinced and argued loudly, everyone, it was this guy who hit me first, I just fought back. You said he hit you first? But we didn't see it, and you didn't have any injuries, but we saw you slash him with a knife. The NPC guard shouted angrily, don't quibble, follow us honestly, we will put you in solitary confinement for 6 hours, and reflect on yourself. The so-called solitary confinement is actually to lock people in a dark room with nothing inside, and unable to contact the outside world. All game functions are turned off, which is very painful. And even if you go offline to rest, the solitary confinement time will not be reduced. When you go online again, the system will help you reset the time. In addition, after the red-named player is killed, he will also be put in solitary confinement, and your sin value will be accumulated. For every 1 point, you will be put in solitary confinement for 1 more hour. It's just cruel. Seeing their boss being captured by NPC, the members of Red Tornado were dumbfounded. Damn, this kid is so good that he even fooled NPC. What are you looking at? It's not against the law for me to beat people. Can you? If you are brave enough, kill me here, or get out of the way. Yechen glanced at the red-haired people and said arrogantly. The red-haired people stared at Yechen fiercely, but they didn't dare to kill him. Killing and beating are two different things. Killing people in the town will be killed instantly by NPC guards. Boy, we Red Tornado will remember you. Be careful next time, the red-haired people threatened for a while and left in disgrace. The trouble was finally gone. Yechen and Huotong smiled at each other. Huotong's eyes rolled around twice, and he shouted a few times. Taking advantage of the large number of onlookers, he beat GG. The purchasing power of many people is indeed fierce, and the instant recovery potion is indeed a good product. After a while, Huotong's stock was consumed. Sorry, the goods are sold out. If you didn't buy it or still want it, you can add me as a friend, and you are welcome to ask for goods at any time. Huotong smiled apologetically, dispersed the crowd, and smiled at Yechen. Boss, wait a minute, I will go to the trading platform to sell coins now. After that, he ignored Yechen and went to work on his own. In less than 10 minutes, Huotong had done everything, and Yechen's account had more than 6,000 yuan. It was the first time to make so much money, and Yechen even felt unreal, but then he was relieved. He had the experience of rebirth, and with the help of Xiahe, he would be able to make more money in the future. After finishing this matter, Yuchen went to the dungeon with Wotong and the mages. Making money is important, but you can't abandon the level. Anyway, there are more people brushing wild wolves now. Collect them earlier or later, and the goods are there. This brushing, several hours passed. On the other side, Yechen skipped self-study, but the head teacher came over to call the roll. Seeing that he was not there, he decisively gave him a warning. Yun Qian'er was a little uneasy. Her father actually encouraged her to date Gao Ming last night, which made her very angry. At the same time, she could guess that Gao Ming would be more unscrupulous with her father's support. At this critical moment, the first person she thought of was Yechen, who had saved her once. After school today, Gao Ming is likely to find an excuse to ask me out. If I don't agree, he should force me to go like last time. Now that his father is on his side, there is nothing he can't do. Yun Qian'er is very worried now, holding on to a glimmer of hope, expecting Yechen to save her again. But Yechen skipped class. Lei Hu, do you know where Yechen went? Yun Qian'er couldn't help asking the fat man. No way, school beauty, you're actually worried about that playboy. Didn't you see yesterday that he even hooked up with Senior Xiaoro, the goddess in our boy's eyes? He's totally inhumane, you might as well care about me instead of him, the fat guy said sourly, holding his chest and pretending to be hurt. Yun Qian'er blushed and said, who cares about him? I'm just curious why he doesn't study. He's already been punished by the head teacher. What's a punishment? That kid. The fat man was about to complain about Yechen, but he found that the school beauty was staring at him. He sighed and said truthfully, to be honest, that kid has been wrong recently. It seems that he is hiding something from me. He didn't go to the barbecue with his brothers at night, he plays games whenever he has time, and he is probably playing games in the dormitory now. Oh, that's how it is. By the way, Lei Hu, I need to go out for something. If the head teacher or Gao Ming asks, just say that I have a stomachache and go to the toilet. Yun Qian'er gave an instruction and sneaked out of the back door. The fat man didn't take it seriously. Instead, he was quite happy. After all, the school beauty asked him for help. You know, Yun Qian'er usually doesn't pay much attention to people. Now she actually asked him for help, which became his capital to brag in front of Yechen. But he didn't know, and definitely couldn't guess, that Yun Qian'er went to the boys' dormitory to look for Yechen. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The strongest assassin in the server. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 19. In the game, Yechen was happily brushing the dungeon with a fire gun and a group of fire mages. Suddenly, there was a beep sound, and the system prompted that someone was looking for him in reality. After playing this game, Yechen was depressed and logged off. He took off his helmet and saw Yun Qian'er leaning against the head of the bed, smiling at him. What's going on? This is a boys' dormitory. How did she get in? Oh, it must be a dream. I dreamed of my dream lover. This is a rare opportunity. Hurry up and kiss him. What happened in front of him was too dreamy. Yechen hypnotized himself for a while, closed his eyes and pouted his mouth and moved closer. Google searched Can. What are you doing? Pervert, Yun Qian'er was startled, and in a panic, she slapped Yechen in the face. Yechen was sober now. It turned out that he was not dreaming. Wow, you hit me so hard. You should know that I saved you before. Even if you want to repay kindness with hatred, you don't have to do this. Yechen held his slapped face. It was not that it really hurt, but Yun Qian'er was rarely alone with him, so he couldn't help teasing her. Yun Qian'er really apologized with a red face. Yechen, who succeeded in his evil plan, couldn't help but laugh. Ye Chen, Gao Ming is going to make trouble for me again. Can you help me? Yun Qian'er frowned and pleaded pitifully. That bastard. Ye Chen's eyes condensed, and he quickly jumped out of bed and rushed out to settle accounts with Gao Ming, but was stopped by Yun Qian'er, who said, "This time is different. Now my father is on his side. I really don't know what to do." Your father is on his side? In other words, your father also agrees that you two are together. Ye Chen was stunned, and tried his best to control his tone, but his tone was still a little sour. Then how can I help you? It's not what you think. You know, I hate Gao Ming very much, and I absolutely can't like someone like him. My father is my father, and I am me. I will not let others decide my fate. Yun Qian'er gritted her teeth and said very firmly. Ye Chen secretly breathed a sigh of relief and said, "What are you going to do? Run away from home?" "Hey, this is a good idea." Yun Qian'er showed a bright smile, her big eyes flickered, staring at Ye Chen and said, "You will help me, right? I have no experience in this area. Will you accompany me to find a house?" "No need to look for it. I just found a house this morning. There is still a room left. If you don't mind, you can talk to the landlord to move in." "Ah, you moved out too? Then don't I have to live with you?" Yun Qian'er asked in astonishment. "Forget it, Gao Ming didn't find me anyway." As if he was despised, Ye Chen replied in a muffled voice, turned his back and deliberately ignored Yun Qian'er. "Hate. I'm kidding, it's just sharing a house, I live." Yun Qian'er thought Ye Chen was angry, and jumped up and down behind him, but she didn't know that Ye Chen was carrying her on his back, and his mouth was almost crooked with laughter. Tisk tisk, being able to live with the person he loves, even if it's just sharing a rent, Ye Chen will die without regrets. Then, the two took a taxi to see the house. Yun Qian'er was very satisfied. She had heard that the houses outside were not clean and unhygienic, but the house Ye Chen found not only had no such problems, but was clean and tidy, with all kinds of home appliances, and very comfortable. Even when she heard that the rent was 2,000, she readily agreed, and the generosity of the rich girl was undoubtedly reflected. "Okay, I'll live here from now on." Hee, it feels quite exciting to run away from home for the first time. Yun Qian'er cheered and pulled Ye Chen out to go shopping without saying anything. She bought a lot of bags and she was not vague at all. Ye Chen next to her was a free laborer, with shopping bags hanging all over his body, and he didn't even leave his mouth. Ye Chen ran after her with sweat all over his head, and his heart was cold. This prodigal woman, if I really chased her, how much money would it cost to support her? But on second thought, he felt a little sweet in his heart. As long as he could really catch up with her, he would be happy no matter how hard it was or how much money he spent to support her. By the way, Ye Chen, I heard that many people are playing Dream World recently. You are also playing it? Is it so attractive? Yun Qian'er reached out to take the shopping bag from Ye Chen's mouth and asked him. "It's really fun. If you want to play, I can take you." "Tisk, who wants you to take me? I can definitely play better than you," Yun Qian'er snorted. After getting familiar with Ye Chen, she gradually revealed her true character. Then, the two came to a professional game store. Yun Qian'er spent money like water. She was slightly interested in the game and bought a game cabin directly. You know, this game cabin costs 100,000 yuan, which is very expensive. But it also has advantages that ordinary game helmets do not have, that is, lying in the game cabin to play games can get a better rest, just like sleeping. This function is very amazing, that is, if you lie in the game cabin to play games at night, it is equivalent to sleeping, and you can still go to work in high spirits the next day. Because of this feature, this game cabin has become the darling of the upper class. Ye Chen wanted it, but he couldn't afford it, 100,000 was too expensive. He had to borrow money from Fatty to buy the 10,000 helmet. Since this game cabin is so good, let's buy two. Yechen, you helped me so much, this game cabin is a thank you gift, Yoon Chiener said proudly, almost blinding the staff's eyes. Miss, you are so generous, a group of staff members flattered loudly, but stared at Yechen with inexplicable eyes, feeling uncomfortable. Damn, they are both men, why is there such a big difference? This guy looks poor, but he hooked up with such a top-notch girl, not only is she beautiful, but she is also so rich, she is simply a winner in life. Yechen wanted to refuse, but when he noticed the eyes of those idiots, he suddenly felt secretly happy and swallowed the words that were on his lips. It doesn't matter. He has long known that Yoon Chiener's family is very rich. For her, 100,000 is probably just a large number, but he really needs this game cabin. Thank you, beautiful girl, but compared to this thank you gift, I hope you can kiss me. Yechen got the advantage and still acted cute, and couldn't help teasing again, which immediately made a group of staff members hate it. You are so beautiful. Yoon Chiener blushed and ran away like a deer. Yechen left the delivery address and hurriedly followed. The two of them strolled around for a while before returning home. As soon as they got home, the staff who delivered the game cabinet arrived. Yechen helped Yoon Chiener install the game cabinet, and she immediately drove him out of the room, eager to enter the game to experience it. Touching his nose, Yechen smiled helplessly, entered his room, installed the game cabinet, and also entered the game. The strongest assassin in the server. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 20. When Yechen came online again, he immediately found Huo Tong and asked him for the wolf heart he had collected. However, Huo Tong looked depressed and said, "Boss, our business is going to fail. Just this afternoon, a large number of low-level life potions suddenly appeared in the market, and the price has been greatly reduced. At the same time, a dealer also received a large number of wolf hearts. The garbage materials that no one wanted before were now raised to more than 200 copper coins by them. It's crazy." Yechen frowned. With his experience in his previous life, he quickly figured out the ins and outs of the matter. This novice village was crowded with people, and he must be more than one person who could get the low-level life potion to make scrolls. When there are more people, everyone wants to make money, and the prices are lower and lower. At the same time, the demand for wolf hearts has increased, and the price has instantly expanded. There is no doubt that many professional players are brushing wolves now. Later, the price of wolf hearts will drop, and it will also lower the price of low-level life potions. In short, Yechen's way of making money collapsed. Heh, I thought there would be such a day, but I didn't expect it to come so soon. Yechen smiled bitterly, patted Huo Tong's shoulder and said, "Forget it, we have already made a fortune anyway, and we will think of other ways out later." After that, Yechen teamed up with Huo Tong and those fire mages and started to cycle the dungeon again. About an hour later, Yechen finally reached level 4. Yechen, ID. Race, human. Occupation, thief. Level, 4. HP, 90/90ths. MP, 70/70ths. Strength, 22. Vital strength, 9. Spirit, 5. Intelligence, 7. Agility, 18. Physical attack, 28/35. Magic attack, 7/7. Physical defense, 23. Magic defense, 6. Fire resistance, 8. Skills, LV1 sap, LV1 stab, LV1 thief, LV1 lockpicking, LV1 stealth, not upgradable, LV1 sprint, not upgradable. Special skill, low-level life potion. Talent, firm will, passive when the character falls into a negative state, he is immune to the state, CD, 30 minutes. After reaching level 4, Yechen did not have much experience to play the Flame Swamp on normal difficulty again, especially with so many people. Besides him, Huotong and the others had already reached level 4. They had mentioned more than once that they wanted Yechen to raise the difficulty. Okay, let's team up with 2 priests and try the difficult level. Yechen finally agreed, but since he wanted to brush the difficult level, he needed at least 10 points of fire resistance. His current fire resistance was 8 points. After inlaying a LV1 fire resistance puzzle, his fire resistance became 11 points, which met the standard. While the guys were recruiting priests, Yechen ran out alone. He was going to open today's treasure chest first. It was still the hidden crevice, but today's treasure chest was locked. Yechen was relieved. Fortunately, he got the unlocking skill yesterday, otherwise it would be embarrassing to see that the treasure chest could not be opened now. System, you used the LV1 unlocking skill, the target bronze treasure chest, and the unlocking success rate was 30%. System, opening the treasure chest, completion rate 1%, 5%, 13%, unlocking failed. Yechen was not disappointed after failing to unlock the box for the first time. Anyway, the treasure chest was right here and no one was trying to steal it. It didn't matter how many times he tried. With a 30% success rate, he would always succeed. Moreover, even if he failed to unlock the box, he would increase his skill proficiency, so he could just treat it as practicing his skills. After the 5th time, with a ding sound, the treasure chest opened automatically, and there was another shining golden light. Of course, it was still copper coins. But this time, there was only one item, an ice blue dagger. Ice dagger, blue quality. Level 4. Attack power, 2941. Strength add 6. Special effect, ice attack. Wow, my luck is so good. Yechen grabbed the ice dagger and laughed wildly. He was in need of a good weapon, but he didn't expect to get a blue dagger of the same level right away. More importantly, this dagger also had an ice attribute attack. You know, the monsters in the Flame Swamp have extremely high fire resistance, but extremely low ice resistance. He doesn't know how low it is, but it is at least above -50, which means that when he attacks with this weapon, at least 50% more damage will be added. Decisively replaced with the ice dagger, Yechen's physical attack power immediately became 5567. It's like a shotgun for a cannon. Not only has the attack power increased by nearly double, but there is also ice attribute attack. Now he is not afraid of difficult level dungeons at all. Quickly returned to the entrance of the Flame Swamp dungeon, and the team really had 2 more priests. Their levels were only level 3, but they were all disgusted. There was no way, who told the team to be a fire mage except Yechen. Because the monsters in the dungeon have high fire resistance, the fire mages can't deal any damage at all, and are just a burden. Hey, are you sure? All of them are fire mages. There's no point in fighting. Let alone the difficult level, you can't even pass the normal level. One of the priests named Amazing Healing complained and wanted to quit the group immediately. Wait, brother, to tell you the truth, we are all burdens, but our boss is awesome, he can kill in seconds. If you don't believe me, you can try it first. Huotong quickly pulled the man back. Try. If the team is wiped out, you will lose 20% of the experience. Will you pay? Naliang Jinky said angrily. I will pay. Yechen strode over and said loudly, I can bring a normal level first, you can stay if you think it's okay. If the team is really wiped out, I will compensate you 2 with 10,000 copper coins each. Naliang Jinky looked at another priest and saw that Yechen was fully equipped, especially the weapon was shining, so he couldn't help but believe it and reluctantly agreed. Yechen laughed secretly, led the team into the dungeon, and stabbed the fire slime in front of him. -142. The slime's body exploded and died immediately. The two priests gasped, followed by Huotong and others. Naliang couldn't help but kick Huotong and said angrily, "Why are you surprised?" "No," Huotong laughed and explained, "we didn't expect that the leader's attack power would become so high. In the first half an hour, the ordinary attack only did more than 50 points of damage. He must have changed his weapon. Just now I felt that his weapon was shining and extremely extraordinary. I'm afraid it's blue equipment." Naliang had a good eye and saw through Yuchin's weapon at a glance, but he didn't guess it right. Because even if it was a blue weapon, it would not be possible to deal such damage without the addition of ice attribute. Of course, there was also the help of Xiahe. "You guessed right, I just changed to a level 4 blue weapon with ice attribute attack." Yuchin smiled and shared the attributes of the ice dagger to the team channel.